Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, where we take a look at the highs and the lows from the Premier League game week just past. And before we crack on with the talking point, number one, this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Manscaped. And if you'd like to support us, if you'd like to try their product, then head over to the link in the description. And if you put in Football Daily, you'll get 20% off and free shipping. Your balls will thank you. Joe, how was your weekend? Secondly, before we dive in to Manchester United and Liverpool.
Yeah, mate, not too bad. Not too bad. Nice and relaxed. I got to see Max Holloway put on one of the great UFC clinics, so I was very happy about that. And then I was slightly disappointed by the game we're about to talk about, but nevertheless, not gutted. How was yours, mate? How did Celtic get on?
Yep, drew with Livingston, so another absolute blinder for me. That's 6 wins in 20 games now for Neil Lennon. It's pretty reminiscent of the Tony Mowbray era at this point. But if I carry on anymore, I will break down into tears. But Brighton won. So, you know, ebbs and flows, doesn't it? And we'll get to that in a little bit as well. Let's start with the talking point then. The game at Anfield, we built it up. It was set to be a classic. You know, the dynamic of the season could have changed with a victory for either side. But a ball draw was played out. Is that a fair assessment?
I think from a neutral standpoint, you could probably fairly assess it as a ball draw. It wasn't a game full of fantastic football and fantastic chances, was it? But from a Manchester United standpoint, I was pretty happy with it. I was pretty happy with the result. I maybe had a little element of disappointment that we didn't really go for the jugular more from about 60 minutes onwards. I felt like the first 30 minutes, Liverpool were in full control. Thiago was running the show. But the further the game progressed, I thought Man United really grew into it. Second half, I actually thought we played pretty well, created some very good chances, but didn't quite have enough cutting edge to really kill Liverpool off. Yeah, I felt like we smelt blood, but we didn't have the teeth to get the job done, which is slightly unlucky. And Liverpool probably feel the same sort of way about the opening 30 minutes, because they definitely created their own semi-chances. But the front three at the moment just aren't quite hitting the net at the right time, are they? They've got one goal from their last 64 shots in the Premier League, a conversion of 1.6%, which is really not good enough. They've now not scored for 3 consecutive Premier League games. I think that's the first time since Rafa Benitez's side did that back in 2005, and that side actually went on to win the Champions League. So maybe a good omen in European sense, but nevertheless, it was Bobby Firmino, wasn't it, who just... I felt like he didn't strike the ball cleanly once on the day. I don't know what was going on with his ball striking technique, but he was not letting the side down, but they were creating sort of half chances, and he didn't either have the final product or the final pass or the final shot to get them over the line. Manchester United, on the other hand, I thought we defended really well, gave the ball away too easily in midfield, and in the second half, I actually thought started to create our own chances through Bruno Fernandes and Pogba, I'm sure you're going to talk about. So it wasn't the best way to celebrate Klopp's 200th game in charge. But nevertheless, both managers will be satisfied with a point. Man City will be the happiest of the bunch. And, you know, Klopp after the game, I thought it was quite interesting. Some of the stuff he was saying. Give this a bit of a listen.
For me, it's not too important where are we in the moment. It's important that we have points and that we are around this group. We spoke now to Paul about the fight for the Champions League. So that's the most important thing, and for that you need points. We have them. We are in the middle of a bunch of group of teams which fight for this spot, and that's what we have to do. That's the job. It's not about if we don't become champion, then it's not fun anymore. So that's not like it is. So we just fight for everything, and I saw that tonight again.
Yeah, pretty surprising to hear that from Jurgen Klopp, because he's always the optimist, always ambitious, but probably makes sense to take a little bit of the heat off his side given their struggles of late. And the dynamic of that top four is becoming really interesting, isn't it? Because they've now played the same amount of games as Leicester. And of course, Leicester sitting pretty in third in the table after that 2-0 victory over Southampton. And Manchester City in the ascendancy. So Liverpool, it's a little bit more head scratching as to where they are and what they can do in this winter window to remedy those problems. Because like you said, they're still producing chances. They're just not converting them. So maybe it's just down to a little bit of luck at current. And of course, Diogo Jota coming back. That will be a huge factor. But let's go back to Manchester United. Let's put a little bit of shine on them for, escaping Fortress Anfield with a point, because they're now unbeaten in 16 games on the road. The club's record in the Premier League era is actually 17 games, which was set in 1999. Ooh. Not a bad year for the club, that, Tomlinson. And quite incredibly, Bruno Fernandes, who was probably United's worst player on the day, I'd say, and he was due a bad game, wasn't he? Is yet to lose on the road with Manchester United in over a year of football. So that odd stat continues, even if his performance levels took a dip in this game. He wasn't very happy at coming off, was he?
No.
Quite a bitty.
He never is, though. I love that about him. I like that about him.
Quite a bitty performance from him. He's an aggressive passer. We know he likes to really force the issue in the final third, but wasn't really clicking with him and Rashford, was it? Which was sort of embodied by the fact that Rashford was caught offside 4 times in the opening 45 minutes, equaling the record for the amount of times a player was caught offside in any given game in the Premier League this season in the opening half. However, I would say that United were probably the better team in the second half, and your defensive shape, your discipline, incredible. I'm going to ask you about Luke Shaw in just a second, but let's touch upon that chance that Paul Pogba passed up, because it was probably the best in the second half. I think you took 34 minutes to produce your first shot in the first half, so it looked like it was going to be a long day for you, but come the second half, the big chances seemed to fall to Manchester United, and had he scuffed it, he might have bobbled over Alisson, but he made a nice clean connection at a good height for the keeper. And unfortunately, it didn't go in. Well, unfortunately for you. But what about that Luke Shaw performance then? Because he didn't put a foot wrong. And this continues a quite incredible turnaround for him in his Manchester United career.
Yeah, definitely. I think the arrival of Alex Telles in the summer, for many Manchester United fans, would probably have signalled what could be the end of Luke Shaw as our starting left back, but how he's disproved many of those theories. He's firmly nailed his name down as the starting left back. Alex Telles really can't get a look in, such as Luke Shaw's fantastic form, and yesterday I thought he was our best player. I actually thought he was, alongside maybe Fabinho and Thiago, the best player on the pitch. Really had Mo Salah under very good lock and key throughout the whole game, which is no mean feat. Was pretty expressive going forward as well. A few nice driving runs, one in the first half to win that free kick for Bruno Fernandes, a lovely overlapping run to set up the Bruno Fernandes chance in the second half as well. I just think he's getting better and better, Luke Shaw. It's really nice to see his improvement, and at the moment I think he's looking really good for a place with England at Euro 2020/2021, whatever it's called now, because Ben Chilwell's having an okay season at left back, but I think that's probably more of a problem area that needs support, and I think Luke Shaw can offer an option there. Also offers an option at the left of a back three, back five, left-hand centre-back. So I think he's kind of a nailed-on name to go to the Euros with England at the moment, and nobody would have said that 6 months ago. His career has really, really seen a renaissance recently, and I'm absolutely delighted for him, Hamster.
Yeah, get in there, Luke Shaw. Deserves it. Great to see that he's lost none of his pace after a few harrowing injuries as well. And let's just put a little bit of shine on Jordan Henderson and Fabinho's performance at centre-half. With everyone else out.
Immense. Fabinho, mate, was immense.
Nat Phillips and Reece Williams on the bench, of course, but they stepped in, did a job for their manager. Only a couple mishaps, but they secured a point in the end, which Jurgen Klopp was relatively happy with, I think. Manchester United now without a win against Liverpool in 5, but stay at the summit of the Premier League. Absolute insanity. Can they sustain it, guys? Let us know in the comments below. Let's move on to our first winners.
Before we get into our first winners, if you are new to Football Daily, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on to never miss a video, and hit the like button while you're down there as well, because it really does help us out. Right then, our first winners were smiling after the 0-0 between Man United and Liverpool, and grinning after a fantastic victory yesterday. Manchester City, this was submitted by Alan Hayden VB, Chris.
Yes, the Manchester City juggernaut is firmly underway now, isn't it? They've won 5 games on the bounce. The first side to do that in the Premier League this season, quite incredibly. And Stones and Gundogan got the ball rolling, didn't they? The centre-half scoring his first Premier League goal for the club after that lovely pinpoint cross from KDB with the outside of his boot. Teach me, Kevin. And Gundogan followed it up with an emphatic finish. An equally sort of gorgeous goal. And the German is absolutely purring at the minute, isn't he? 4 goals in his last 6 Premier League games after we named him in our underrated XI of 2020. And that's as many as he put up in his previous 55 appearances. So experiencing a purple patch, absolutely. And the opener was also Kevin De Bruyne's 100th assist for the club, his 10th assist of the season, but his 100th for them in all competitions, 31 more than anyone else since he made his debut for the Citizens.
Mad.
The consistency is absolutely frightening, as is that little ginger thing he persists with on his face. I mean, I can't talk. My facial hair is absolutely pathetic, but it's very sort of biker boy, isn't it? The Stones-Diaz partnership, absolutely stellar once again, remained unbreached. That's 10 games they've now played together, winning 9 of them, drawing the other, and only conceding 1 goal in the process. Yeah, absolutely mad. And they even combined for Stones' second goal, didn't they? Diaz getting on the end of a corner and John Stones picking up the pieces with a nice drilled left-footed finish. And as it stands, the Portuguese centre-half, he may not have contributed to a goal in this game, but he's currently being dribbled past 0.1 times per 90, which equates to
numbers.
less than 4 times over the course of a season. I mean, in this game, he's fantastic, 6 tackles and interceptions, but he's just embedded himself into that City side, emphatically, hasn't he? Awesome start to his Manchester City career. And talking of awesome, Raheem Sterling's free kick at the very end. Woof, that was his first direct free kick of his career. I've never seen him strike a free kick like that. So maybe he's been working after hours with Kevin De Bruyne on the training ground, Joseph. But yeah, Crystal Palace had a little bit of hope coming into this game, weirdly enough, didn't they?
Yeah, they've got a little bit of a hoodoo against Manchester City, haven't they? City hadn't won against Palace at home in their last 2 attempts, losing 1, drawing 1. But on the night, you kind of got the sense from about minute 5 onwards that it wasn't going to be their night. They were pretty much brutalised for 90 minutes here. Let's have it right, of course. Only having 2 shots. That's almost 8 fewer than they average throughout the season. Manchester City were just gorgeous to watch. They are improving week on week, and it's really worrying for the rest of the Premier League, their current form. They outpassed Crystal Palace 3-1. Palace just couldn't get hold of the ball.
No.
The pressure was relentless by Manchester City. Only 2 Palace players completed more passes than goalkeeper Gaeta. That was 32. Which is really summarises how deep Palace were sitting, because Man City were just, like I said, relentless. Palace completed almost 3 times as many clearances in their own box as they had touches in Manchester City's.
Great stat.
That's how much. If you laid it out as like a heat map, you'd be red as in the Palace area, because the ball would not leave it. The ball just would not leave it. But yeah, you touched on the Stones and Diaz partnership there. And a little bit like Luke Shaw, John Stones' revival has been so good to see. He's almost a nailed-on name for England at the Euros, for me. When there was a bit of panic about who might partner, probably Harry Maguire at the heart of the defence with the Joe Gomez injury. John Stones now seems like he's the number 1 centre-back name for me on the paper, because he's just getting better and better week in, week out. His passing ability is fantastic, but equally, his defensive nous alongside Ruben Diaz seems to have grown tenfold. He's cut out all of the silly mistakes that he was previously making, and it's so good to see. And after the game, he was chatting with Sky Sports.
Yeah, it's always tough, when you're not playing and you don't get a run of games, and you when you do, you don't perform to what you can do because maybe you put too much pressure on yourself. And I've said it to Meeks and to a lot of people that I just went back to the basics, looked at myself first, looked at what I could improve on, and in every aspect. And I said it to Meeks a few times now, that and he's been very open about himself as well, which is good. And I think players that have been in my position and for me personally to keep fighting and keep believing in myself is something that first and foremost needs to happen. You need to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, am I doing everything for myself and for the team? And I did that and kept working hard, kept the faith, and kept grinding away. And as I said, keep trying to improve, and I still am now. So it's something that I don't think you'll ever stop improving or looking to improve on yourself. And yeah, I'm just trying to do my best.
Our losers this week then come from @Kieran's Blues, and it's Leeds, who weren't so super against Graham Potter's Brighton, were they, Tomlinson?
Yeah, you're delighted, Hamster, because we are going to touch on Graham Potter, and I'll leave that fully to you. I'm going to focus on Leeds, and they're in a bit of a rut at the moment under Marcelo Bielsa. They're not quite playing their usual brand of football. Of course, handed a bit of an embarrassing L, in the words of George Wright, the fattest L in football management, by Crawley, who beat them 3-0 in the FA Cup last weekend and had the tenacity to bring on Mark Wright, the former Towie star, when they were 3-0 up. And in this game, I felt like Leeds struggled pretty badly yet again, despite the fact they had more time off than Brighton in the build-up. Of course, Brighton playing midweek against Manchester City, Leeds having a full break after that FA Cup weekend. They were without the fairly talismanic, at this stage, Calvin Phillips, who sets the tempo for almost all of the stuff they do well. His vertical passing cannot be underestimated. And without him, Leeds, I think, had to build a little bit more through the wide areas, and that really suited Brighton and Brighton's back five, because they have got some big boys back there in Brighton's back five. They've even got some big boys in the midfield, haven't they? So when you get the ball wide and opposition are crossing against Brighton, it suits the likes of Dunk, Webster, Dan Burn, Ben White down to the ground, because they can just head balls clear. Leeds attempted 29 crosses in this game and completed just 5 of them. That really sums up how much Brighton was sort of gobbling up those whipped balls in from the likes of Harrison and Rafinha. Even Patrick Bamford, who, is 6'1", so he's not a small bloke, was struggling against Dan Burn and Adam Webster. Those two won 11 aerial duels between them. I think Leeds just struggling to create high-quality chances at the moment. They took just 7 shots in this game, which is very un-Leeds-esque. They're averaging about 15 this season, so down by almost half. They only managed 3 shots inside the box in the whole 90 minutes. Bielsa will not be happy about that at all. Actually, Luke Ayling, who was kind of deployed as a right centre-back in this game, was the only player to create more than 1 key pass for his teammates, which is quite telling that the midfield struggled without the likes of Calvin Phillips. And Leeds have now lost to Brighton, Leicester, West Ham, Wolves, all whilst facing a back 3. So this might be a little bit of a problem for Bielsa to solve, and he's usually pretty good at solving problems. Nevertheless, they are in something of a slump. This was a good win for Brighton, though, wasn't it, Amster?
Yeah, pretty concerning for the home side how easily they were sort of managed out of this tie, especially given Brighton's schedule, like you said, and their injury roster. I mean, the visitors were also missing the likes of Ali Reza Jahan Bash, Tariq Lamptey, Danny Welbeck and Aaron Connolly. And considering they were struggling for goals, they still are struggling for goals, that did provide a few selection headaches for Graham Potter, but I think he got his setup spot on in this fixture. And, 17 minutes into the game, the Seagulls produced a lovely, free-flowing team move that was finished off by Neil Maupay that put them 1 goal to the good. And I think that goal actually illustrated their attacking game plan perfectly. I mean, you touched upon their defensive game plan, which has been trotted out a few times against Leeds this season. But they were working it quickly from outside to in and then sort of overloading in central areas, with Brighton pretty much playing 4 midfielders in the centre. Dropping Trossard deep, having Pascal Gross alongside Ben White, and then having McAllister sort of press like a maniac.
So
he's worked so hard, McAllister, for the side in the last 2 weeks. And yeah, props to Ben White and Pascal Gross in particular, because Ben White, brilliant at carrying the ball in this game, left a lot of the defensive work to Pascal Gross, who actually completed 4 tackles, which was a team high on the day. But Ben White was doing an awful lot of progression into that final third, like I said. Even completed a couple of dribbles as well. He's definitely adding a string to his bow in sort of recent months, isn't he? I thought he looked a bit awkward in midfield to start with, but he's really grown into the role in recent weeks. And now Neil Maupay has scored more goals against Leeds United than any other opponent in English football, and has 7 in 14 starts this campaign. So he's putting up solid numbers once more, but he definitely needs some help, some assistance in that final third if they're going to continue this upturn in form, let's say, because Brighton are still the only team in the league without a home win. Although they've won more on the road than Liverpool, which is, again, personifies how weird this season has been. Some good news has come out of the woodwork for them recently with Tariq Lamptey signing that new 4-year deal. They've got Karbownik returning from Legia Warsaw on loan to sort of shore up those midfield positions. I think he can play along the defence as well. But they need attacking reinforcements, don't they? And they need Fulham, Newcastle, Burnley to continue to struggle because those teams have games in hand on them. Now, the importance of this result certainly wasn't lost on goalscorer Neil Maupay, who had this to say after the game.
I mean, it's a big one for us. A much needed win. We've had a tough week, with 3 games. Leeds are a good team, and they're running a lot. It's been really hard, but we're really pleased with 3 points today.
Rounding off the show then, like we do with our favourite moment. Thank you for sending me yours on Twitter. Make sure if you didn't do it this week, you do it next week. I'll hit up the replies shortly after this. Tomlinson, what was your favourite moment, though, from this weekend's Premier League fixtures?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Tanguy Ndombele goal in that Tottenham win because the pressure was just starting to build on Tottenham. Sheffield United had just got a goal back, and I was sitting down thinking, ooh, now we've seen Tottenham over the last few weeks sit on Leeds, and is this going to be another example of them conceding an 80th minute equaliser at 2-2 against Sheffield United? But no, Tanguy Ndombele, beautiful little 1-2, and the finish. I mean, Sonny Stanley put in the group chat, did he mean it? Of course he meant it. What else is he trying to do?
It's
the most outrageous finish. It's like a Roger Federer backhand backspin lob. It's beautiful. Ramsdale squirming around like a worm in the mud. Nothing he could do. It's just delightful. And I'm so happy that Tanguy Ndombele's finally come good and made our prediction happen, Hamster.
Yeah, I was pretty delighted that McGoldrick scored as well because he's in my fantasy team coming off the bench. 7 points for Hamill, the Animals, Barmy Army. I think I've defeated Danny Pape this week, moving up to mid-table in Football Daily's Draft Premier League. Just a quick reminder that this episode was brought to you by our mates over at Manscaped. And if you want to support the channel, head on over to the link in the description. Check out their products. Use the code FootballDaily for 20% off and free shipping. Would really, really appreciate it. And to be fair, the product's pretty spot on. We've all been sent a set, and to be honest, Joe, I've never looked smarter down there, mate. What a way to end the show. Like Joe said, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please hit that button now, like this video, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.